All right, now that you have a strong understanding of the thesis, let's take a step back and let's talk about the entire paper. Now, this paper in general often is a little challenging for students to get into initially, and I think that that happens because this paper does not at all work how our previous op-ed assignment worked. And what I mean by that is that in the op-ed assignment, everybody thought about an argument they wanted to make, and you then thought about the support and the appeals that you could use to make that argument. And in a sense, we were all living in our own echo chambers, right? We didn't change our mind. We didn't look at information and learn new things. We thought of an argument and we made it happen. This assignment, in a sense, is the inverse of that. That is, that we're starting with information. We're analyzing the information. We're drawing conclusions based on that analysis, and we're thinking of connections. So we don't start with an argument, we arrive at an argument. And that's really a challenging thing for students to engage in if they haven't done it before. And so that arrival process is actually how the entire paper is set up. Now, I'm returning to this conceptual thesis that I addressed in the previous video, and I'm returning to those kind of three moves. But now when we think about those moves, I want you to think that those moves are in place so that we can arrive somewhere. And so this first part of the thesis, or the first section of your paper, is really this analytical move. And it's you finding evidence from your specific discourse. That evidence can be anything from direct quotations to images to screenshots you take. You may want to hyperlink to website pages, right? Often it's dependent on what it is that you're actually investigating in terms of what you're going to then use as the evidence. But I'm open to helping you guys kind of figure that stuff out. But you're going to have to bring in the evidence, the pictures, the language, etc. And you're going to look for the patterns that exist. In the next video, I'll give you a very specific example of how that actually becomes writing, and we'll use the GNC example that we've been using since last week. So that's that analytical component. That's the first thing we do. And in the analysis, we start to learn. We learn the patterns in the organization. And once we have those, we can then move to the second section of the paper. We can move to where we can now draw conclusions about the values and the belief systems or the ideologies that exist within the discourse. And so we can comment on that. And that's not a big part of the paper. That's a paragraph, maybe two, that clarifies those values. And then we think about those values and we start to make those connections. And that's the final part of the paper. That's the final 2 to 3 paragraphs. And those connections can take us to a discussion about other discourses. And often those connections take us to outside research. And so we have some research at the beginning of the paper, right? Research of your discourse proper. And then at the end we have research about the values that you arrive at. And people use all sorts of research from credible newspapers and magazines, .edus, .govs, from our book, for example, right? So we want to really think about the connections we can make there. And throughout the next couple of weeks, we'll go through each of these sections in detail. This week, we're going to spend some time talking about the analysis. So take a look at the next video, and I hope that that helps you get started on the project. Take care.